Alright, so today we're pouring over Tim Wu's Master Switch. For our pour over, we're going to need a Chemex, a scale, a gooseneck kettle with 205-degree water, a mug, a Chemex filter, a spoon, and of course our ground coffee. Let's get started. So first we're going to take our filter and fold it so that the three-sided side is towards the spout. Alright, now we're going to want to get that wet, one, to get the paper taste out, and to preheat our vessel. We're going to pour some in our mug as well, just so that the coffee can stay hot for a little bit longer. Now we're just going to sit here really awkwardly while the water drips through and think about Tim Wu's cycle and how you're just doing what Binging with Babish does. Alright, next thing, move on. We're going to pour out our water, because that's not going to help us with the coffee later, of course. Try to get all of it out. It's taking way too long. Alright. Alright, fell miserably the first time, and go at it one more time. Fantastic. There we go. Set your boy down gingerly. Tear out your scale, because you want to make sure that you have exactly 48 grams of coffee in there. I took a liberty of going ahead and measuring this out. I'm just going to plop the whole thing in there. After I'm done though, I'm going to shake it out a little bit so that it's all flat. It's really important that all of the grounds get wet around the same time. So that's what I'm doing here. Cool, 48 grams exactly. I'm going to tear out my scale one more time. We're going to start the timer. And the first 45 seconds are very crucial. It's called the bloom. It's where most of the flavor that in the coffee is where you'll get that from. Most of the aromatics, most of the enzymatic flavors are going to come from that. And so I leave it and let it bloom. I use as little water as possible. I pick up the master switch because I promise I'm going to get to that once the pour over actually begins. But at 45 seconds, we will begin to do the rest of the pour over, which should be about 800 grams. We'll stop at about 400 grams though to let some of it drip through. And that's where you'll get my commentary on Tim Wu and this fantastic book. Get a little nervous, stop looking at your clock. It's going over, you're ruining it. Alright, cool. Begin. Alright, you're gonna want to go in small circles. You want to do like a continual and like same rate of pour the entire time. So we're going to go all the way around, all the way around. It should be coming up on 400 grams pretty quickly. 400 grams of water, that is. Alright, and so we wait until about 2 minutes and 15 seconds and we'll begin again. Alright, let's talk about the master switch. In order to establish his thesis, Wu embarks on an ambitious history of the communication industries in the 20th century. Running through it like a strand of DNA is the story of how the Bell Telephone Company morphed into AT&T, one of the most fearsome monopolies in history, which was eventually broken up by the Federal Communications Commission, but has effectively reconstituted itself. Then there's the story of broadcast radio, a promising medium captured by RCA and NBC with the convenience of the FCC. After that comes movies and the tale of how a freewheeling, chaotic, and creative industry was cornered by a cartel of vertically integrated corporations, which for decades channeled all cinematic creativity through a set of narrow apertures. Throughout his book, Wu tries to explain the cycle and what kind of technology goes through. Oh, and I'm being interrupted. Okay, looks like 2:15 is passed. Gonna go around the edges to make sure all of the coffee gets good and saturated. We're going to about 800 grams. it's really important to make sure you do a continual pour. Coffee is very fickle, so if you kind of only get a couple grounds wet through one pass, it's just not going to taste right. Perfect. Alright, now we just wait. A good Chemex pour over should take about 5.5 minutes to 6. So I'll see you then. Oh cool, you're back. Just in time. Let's go ahead and take the filter out. It might be still dripping a little bit, but that's okay. It's been 5.5 minutes, so better to not over extract it. So put it in a bowl. Pour out our hot water that's made our vessel good and hot. Won't shock the coffee. And for the piece de resistance, let's go ahead and pour ourselves a cup of coffee. Awkwardly hold the cup in the air and pour your coffee. You realize that's dumb, set it down. Perfect, we're doing great. Alright, now I'd like to share my thoughts on the cycle. Wu explains the cycle with its progression from somebody's hobby to somebody's industry, from jury-rigged contraption to slick production marvel, from a freely accessible channel to one strictly controlled by a single corporation or cartel. And this very much reminds me of YouTube, the very thing that I'm using now. There's no other platform that's like very easy to post like video content, and if there is, well then YouTube either buys it out or sinks it completely. The format that I'm using now, where I'm kind of like using my hands to show you what I'm doing, is also another ripoff of something else. Binging with Babish does it, Tasty does it, and they've all made something that was a hobby, from like making food to making drinks in front of you without showing your face, into something that pays their bills, something that they will definitely go to blows over if someone tries to copy them. So it's interesting, and that's the Master Switch.